I wasn't even there to impress anyone. I just wanted to get a workout in, lose the stiffness of another long day. But then she walked in. My neighbor, Lauren, 40-some, blonde hair tied loosely, black sports bra and leggings hugging her in a way that made me instantly forget why I came here in the first place. She noticed me almost immediately. The corner of her lips curled like she'd been waiting for this moment. "Spot me, boy?" she said, her voice low enough that only I could hear. The way she said boy made my chest tighten. I laughed nervously, trying to play it cool, but what came out of my mouth was even worse. Not sure I'll be looking at the barbell." Her eyebrows lifted, and for a second, I thought I'd ruined everything. But instead of laughing at me, she tilted her head, almost approving. "Good," she whispered, sliding onto the bench press. My heart hammered so loud I was sure the entire gym could hear it. I stood behind her, hands ready to catch the bar, but my eyes betrayed me. I tried to stare straight ahead at the weights, the mirrors, anywhere, but every move she made pulled me back in. She lowered the bar slowly, deliberately, her breath steady. I swallowed hard, pretending I was focused on the metal in her hands, but my mind screamed, "Don't stare, don't stare, don't." And then she looked up at me, her eyes locking on mine from beneath the bar. It wasn't the glance of someone who needed help. It was a challenge, a silent dare, heavier than it looks, she murmured between breaths. I nodded quickly, moving closer, but my pulse betrayed me. The bar rose again, her arms trembling slightly, and I leaned in, my face only inches from hers. Too close, she noticed. Oh, she noticed. The tiniest smile flickered across her lips before she set the bar back on the rack with a soft clang. Sitting up, she let the towel slide down her shoulder, exposing more skin than necessary. "You did well," she said, dabbing at her neck. I wanted to answer, but my throat had gone dry. She stood, stepping just close enough that I caught the scent of her perfume mixed with sweat. Strangely intoxicating, dizzying. "You're nervous," she teased, lowering her voice. "That's cute." My hand was still hovering awkwardly in the air as if I might help her, but she didn't move away. Instead, she leaned forward, close enough that her breath grazed my cheek. My chest locked. She wasn't supposed to get that close. Not here. Not like this. She pulled back an inch, leaving me gasping for air I didn't realize I'd been holding. "See you tomorrow?" she asked like it was the most casual thing in the world. And before I could think of an excuse, before I could remind myself that she was my neighbor, that this was dangerous, I found myself nodding. "Tomorrow," I whispered. She smiled knowingly as if she'd already won. Then she turned and walked away, every step slow, deliberate, leaving me standing there with my heart racing and my hands still shaking from a barbell I hadn't even touched. The next evening, I almost convinced myself not to go. I told myself I was tired, that work had drained me, that maybe I should take a rest day. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't afraid of the weights. I was afraid of her, or maybe of myself, of what I might do if she got too close again. Still, I walked into the gym, and there she was already on the treadmill, hair tied back this time, sweat glistening along her collarbone. She caught my reflection in the mirror and immediately slowed to a walk like she had been waiting for me. "Thought you'd chicken out," she teased as I passed. I smirked weakly, pretending her words didn't sink straight into my chest. "I don't quit that easily." She stepped off the treadmill, grabbing a towel. "Good. Then you're mine tonight." My breath stalled. She didn't even pause, just walked toward the dumbbells, expecting me to follow. And I did. She picked up a pair that looked far too heavy, lifting them with perfect control. My eyes betrayed me again, following every curve, every deliberate movement. She noticed. Of course, she noticed. "You promised you'd watch the weights," she said between reps, voice light, but sharp as a blade. I stammered. I am." She tilted her head, her ponytail swinging. "Liar." The word hit me harder than any dumbbell ever could. She set the weights down with a soft thud and stepped closer, invading my space in a way that felt intentional. "Relax," she whispered, almost brushing against me as she reached for a towel. I like it when people pay attention. My pulse thundered. She wasn't just playing around anymore. She was tightening the rope, pulling me closer to some invisible line I wasn't sure I was supposed to cross. We moved to the squat rack. She loaded the bar, heavier this time, and without asking, I stood behind her. My hands hovered near her waist, not touching, but close enough to feel the heat radiating from her skin. She bent forward to grip the bar. My throat went dry. She must have felt the air shift between us because she let out a soft laugh. "Focus, boy," she murmured, lowering herself into a squat. I nearly forgot to breathe. Every movement was deliberate, slow, exaggerated, like she knew exactly what she was doing to me. On the last rep, she leaned back a little more than necessary. And for a split second, I thought she'd press herself against me. My hands twitched, instinctively, wanting to steady her to hold her, but she straightened at the last second, racking the bar with a clang that echoed through the gym. She turned, breathless but smiling, eyes burning with something unspoken. "Not bad," she said, grabbing her water bottle. Then, leaning closer, she added, "But you still look nervous." I tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. She didn't give me time to recover. She reached out, fingertips brushing my forearm as though she were testing my pulse. "Tomorrow," she said softly, almost a command, and just like that, she walked away again. Towel slung over her shoulder, leaving me frozen in place. My body felt like I'd run a marathon, though I'd barely lifted a thing. The truth was undeniable now. This wasn't about the gym anymore. It was about her, about us. And if she kept pushing, I didn't know how much longer I could resist. The third night, the gym felt different before I even stepped inside. The air seemed heavier, the hum of machines quieter, as if everyone knew something was about to happen. And when I saw her sitting casually on a bench like she owned the place, I knew I was already in too deep. "You're late," Lauren said, not even looking at me at first. When she finally did, her eyes lingered longer than they should have, like she was peeling me apart piece by piece. I mumbled some excuse, but she just smirked. "Come on. I saved something for you." She led me toward the far corner near the old rowing machines. The lights flickered above us, dimmer here, shadows curling across the walls. She handed me a weight. "Let's see what you can handle." I lifted it, trying to focus, but every time I looked up, she was staring right at me, never blinking, never breaking that invisible string between us. And then darkness. The lights went out in an instant. A ripple of gasps echoed through the gym. Machines stopped. Music cut out. For a moment, silence. Only the sound of breathing, hers and mine, filled the space between us. "Well," she said softly, her voice dripping with amusement, "now you really don't have to look at the barbell." My chest tightened. I could barely see her, just the outline of her figure moving closer. My pulse pounded so loud it drowned out everything else. She brushed past me just lightly, her shoulder grazing my arm, but in the dark it felt electric. "Relax," she whispered so close I could feel the warmth of her words on my neck. "It's only a blackout, but it felt like the universe had stripped away the rest of the world, leaving just the two of us suspended in something dangerous and irresistible. My hand twitched at my side, wanting to reach for her to make sure she was still there. But I didn't dare. She was the one in control, and she knew it. I heard her laugh softly in the dark. "You're so tense. Do I scare you, boy?" I swallowed hard. "Maybe." She moved again, closer this time. I could tell by the faint scent of her perfume, the sound of her breathing just inches away. My body leaned forward instinctively, pulled by gravity. I couldn't fight. For a heartbeat, it felt like she was about to close the distance. That forbidden line we'd been dancing around for days. My lips parted, a breath away from something I couldn't take back. And then the lights snapped on, bright, harsh, blinding. I stumbled back, blinking furiously, while she stood there perfectly composed as if nothing had happened except for the tiny knowing smile tugging at her lips. She picked up her towel, swung it casually over her shoulder and said, "See, you survived." My hands were shaking, my chest still heaving like I just sprinted a mile, but she didn't wait for an answer. She walked away, hips swaying, leaving me staring after her like a fool. I wasn't sure if I'd imagined the whole thing, if the blackout had just played tricks on my mind, but when she glanced back over her shoulder, eyes locking with mine for the briefest second, I knew it had been real, too real, and she wasn't finished. Not yet. By the fourth night, I stopped pretending I was going to the gym just to work out. The weights, the machines, the sweat, all of it was background noise now. The only reason I kept showing up was her, and she knew it. Lauren was waiting by the entrance when I arrived, leaning against the wall like she'd been there for hours. "You're consistent," she said, eyes glinting under the fluorescent lights. "I like that in a man." My mouth went dry instantly. She didn't even give me a chance to answer. She just started walking, tossing me a look over her shoulder that made my legs move before my brain caught up. We barely touched a single piece of equipment that night. She led me through stretches, slow, deliberate movements that had me hyper-aware of every inch of space between us. She corrected my form with the lightest touches, fingers brushing my wrist, her palm against my back. Every time it felt like a spark. I was sure the others in the gym could see it, the magnetic pull between us. And maybe they did. At one point, I caught someone watching, a smirk on their face before they shook their head and turned away. Lauren noticed, too. She leaned in close, her lips almost grazing my ear. "They think I'm corrupting you," she whispered. My pulse spiked. "Aren't you?" I managed. She chuckled softly low in her throat. "Maybe." We ended up by the water fountain, standing closer than necessary. She took a slow sip, then wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, her eyes never leaving mine. "You know," she said, "there are some things you can't really practice here. Too many eyes." I swallowed hard, my brain screaming at me to step back, but my feet refused to move. "Like what?" Her smile was dangerous. "Playful balance," she said finally. "Control, the kind of exercises you need privacy for." She let that hang in the air thick and heavy before casually picking up her bag. "Come on, let's not waste time." My heart stuttered. "Where are we going?" She tilted her head, amused by my panic. "Relax, boy. My place 2 blocks away. Unless you're afraid of a little extra training." My mouth went completely dry. Every cell in my body told me this was a line I shouldn't cross, that stepping into her apartment would change everything. And yet, the idea of saying no felt impossible. We walked together into the cool night air. The city buzzed faintly around us, but it felt like we were the only 2 people alive. She didn't rush. Every step seemed measured, deliberate, as though she wanted me to feel the tension building with each block. When we reached her building, she stopped at the door and turned to me. "Last chance," she said softly, eyes locked on mine. "Go home or come inside." My chest tightened, every nerve screaming with anticipation. I couldn't answer. I just stood there, frozen between fear and desire. She smiled knowingly and pushed the door open. "Good boy," she whispered, stepping into the shadows, and I followed. Lauren's apartment smelled faintly of vanilla and something sharper, perfume lingering in the air like a secret. The door clicked shut behind me, and suddenly the world outside didn't exist. No gym, no neighbors, no rules, just me and her in a space that felt too quiet, too intimate. She dropped her bag carelessly on the floor, then looked back at me with that same dangerous smile. "Don't be so stiff," she teased. "You act like I brought you here to eat you alive." My laugh cracked nervously, betraying me. "Didn't you?" Her eyebrow arched. "Would you mind if I did?" My pulse slammed against my ribs. She moved to the kitchen counter, poured 2 glasses of water, and handed one to me. Our fingers brushed for only a second, but it sent a current through my arm. "Sit," she said, pointing to the couch. I obeyed without a word. She joined me, too close for comfort, her knee grazing mine. She leaned back casually, sipping her drink, as if this wasn't the most dangerous moment of my life. "Tell me something," she said suddenly, turning her body toward me. "Why do you keep showing up? Is it really about training?" I swallowed. My mouth felt like sand. "I don't know." Her lips curved into a knowing smile. "Honest. I like that," She set her glass down and leaned in. Her perfume wrapped around me, sweet and intoxicating. Her eyes searched mine closer, closer, until there was barely an inch left between us. My breath caught. This was it. This was the moment. I could already feel the heat of her skin, the promise of something forbidden that had been building for nights. And then she stopped, hovering right there, so close it was unbearable, but not crossing the line. "You're trembling," she whispered. "That's cute." My chest ached. I didn't know if it was frustration, longing, or both. "You're doing this on purpose," I managed. Her smile deepened. "Of course I am." She shifted slightly, brushing her hand against mine, letting her fingers linger just long enough to make me dizzy. Then she pulled back slowly, deliberately, leaving a void that felt colder than the night outside. "Patience," she said, almost like a command. "Good things take time." I wanted to protest, to tell her that I couldn't take much more of this game, but the words died in my throat because she was already standing, picking up her towel again as if nothing had happened. She walked toward the window, city lights casting a golden glow across her silhouette. "This isn't over," she said softly without turning around. I sat frozen, torn between relief and torture, my heart still racing like I just finished a sprint. She finally looked back at me, her eyes glinting in the dim light. "Go home now," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Come back tomorrow if you're brave enough." My legs felt heavy as I stood, the weight of her words pressing into me harder than any barbell ever could. As I opened the door to leave, I glanced back one last time. Lauren was still by the window, arms crossed, watching me with that same unreadable smile. And I knew then this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of something I wasn't sure I could handle.